Hey, welcome ladies and gentlemen to a tutorial on Quickcode UI. This is a free HTML page designer, so you can design whole HTML templates within this software here, and it's absolutely free. The link to it is in the description. So we're going to create something simple in here so that we learn the user interface and how things work over here. So what we're going to look at is one of these cards here. So we're going to create this situation here. Simple enough, but it's going to give us knowledge on how to go about making stuff from scratch in here. So when you look at an item like this, you have to imagine where the divs are, because we know that divs are rectangles. So it's better to have those as containers for all these items instead of having these items in isolation. So first of all, we can imagine that there's one div over here, like so. Excuse me. And then inside that div, we could have another div containing this image, or we could just have the image itself. Those are options you can do. And then we want another div that contains some text inside, and another div here that contains this text over here. And then we have these icons down here. Now, instead of just putting these icons in isolation like this, we put them inside a div as well. Putting things in divs is good because even when you want to move this part of, you want to copy to something else, you can easily just grab the container of the content and then just copy and paste it somewhere else. So very important to put as many divs as you need everywhere. So let's begin. Now here, we know that we need one div here, but this whole thing is an entire section. So it would be good to put a whole section here, because then if we want to move the entire section, we can easily just grab one thing and copy the whole thing and move it elsewhere. So it's important to think of the future because reusability is key in speeding up your workflow. So let's start here by clicking Add Item. And I want to go to the empty side of things. And I want to add a section over here. So I'll click Section here. So now when I select the section, it should bring up a Properties panel. Now, if you don't see the Properties panel, go right at the top here and click Properties like that. If that's ticked, then you should see it. Now, there are certain times when, because you can actually click and drag this, in case you dragged it too far off the page for some reason, you can easily just go to View and say Reset Properties Panel, and it will reset back to where it belongs. Okay. So this button here just closes these guys here. So if I do that, that closes that. This one closes the properties panel. You have to click back there to have it. Now, when this thing is selected, you will notice that it says section over here because that's what the tag name of this item is. It's not a div, it's a section. So you see it here, selected types section. So if you select multiple things, it will show you the list of those things that were selected and what types they are. So this is a section here. Here we have classes. So this one has one class called the section. You can always add a new class to the selected item by clicking that and then save. Then you will have an extra class, but we don't want to do that now. If you want to edit the selected class, you click Edit over here, and you can edit it to some other class name. If you want to delete that class, you click here, but it says you can't delete the last class on an element because we do need classes all the time. Okay. Okay, so there's an error here. Okay. All right, so please select a class first. Yeah, so we've selected a class there. Now, here you can copy and here you can paste a class. So you can copy this class to another item, select it and paste it. That's what this part does. So now you understand that. Now let's go to the background color of this item and click to select the white over here. Okay. Now looking down here, if you scroll down on the properties panel, you have the styles. So if you don't want to deal with this part here, where things are laid out nicely here, you can easily go and type in the styles yourself. Maybe there's some style that's missing here because obviously I can't get all the styles. You can easily just come and type it over here. That's fine. For example, the minimum height of this section is 400 pixels. I can easily just type in 300 pixels and you see it move over here. So that's how things work in this category. All right, so while this is selected, make sure the selection, if you click on here where there are dots, then you are clicking in the canvas. But here, we select that and let me add an item. Now you can also click on the plus here to add an item on the selected item, or just click here. Now I want an empty div. This empty div is the container of one of these. So select that. Now I can click and drag it around like so to give it whatever width and height. You can see the width and height here change in real time as I drag. But we can just go to the properties panel and put actual numbers, 300, and then on the height, I want that to be 300 as well. So it's a square. But the problem is this is a fixed height, and I wanted to adjust. If there's too much info, it should increase in height. So what I would do instead of saying height 300, I'll say minimum height 300, and then just remove this property here. To remove a property, just click the X next to it like that, and that removes that property. So it still looks the same, but because it's using minimum height, meaning it doesn't have a fixed height, if I add too much data, it's going to enlarge. So that's what we want. Now, I don't want this color, I want the background color of white. But now that it's white, we can't really see it in comparison to this. If I click away, it's hard to see that there's a div there, but when I hover on it, I will see it. So let me select it. And what I want to do is, for now, I just want to add a border, just so I can see it. So just click here to say 1 pixel, and then click the color and put black. This is just so we can see the element. Now, if you don't like, you want to see something, like here I can't see the border that I'm creating, I can go to view and say show transform box, and tick that, and the transform box will not show. That way when I'm adjusting things, I can see what's happening behind the scenes there without all that distraction. But now it means if I select something, I won't see that selection. It will show me here that I've selected a section, but you need to remember to put that back. Okay, so that's selected, that's good. Now we need to add an image and a div with text and another div with text, and then an empty div that we're going to add icons to. So now what you can do is you can go on view here and say remove the auto close item loader. That way the item loader doesn't close when you add one item, because that's what has been happening. When we say add item and I click something, this thing closes. But I want to add several items here. Now in future I will add click and drag from the item loader. I'm already working on that, so it's coming soon. So now that we've removed the auto close item loader, I can now click add and go to elements. So I want to add a rounded image, and then I want to add a div text, 2 of them, and then I want to add an empty div. Okay, and let's close that. So this is what we've added in here. Now, before you click add item, you have to be careful what you've selected, because that's where the things will come into. So if you haven't selected anything, it will go directly in the canvas. If you have, it will go in that particular element. So keep that in mind. Now, if by mistake you add something that you didn't want to add, so let me click here on the side and they say add item, and let me add something like maybe I want something, I don't know, maybe a button. So let me add a button here. So it doesn't auto close, so I'll close that. Now I decide, oh, I didn't want to add a button, so I'll select that and delete that button, right? Now the issue is that there's a class that button had, and it's still lingering around. It's not being used by any element here, but it's still there in the system. So what you can do is you can go to, after deleting something, you can go to CSS, delete any orphaned classes. So we'll click that. Now this doesn't happen automatically because certain times you want to delete and leave the classes to use for some other. You can create a new item and give it that class name, the old class name. So it just leaves you that option. But here you can say delete orphaned classes and click OK. It will tell you that 2 classes were deleted, and that's good. So that cleans things up a bit so that every class that exists has an element attached to it. So now let's select this thing and let's go to font here and say text align center. So everything now is centered and nice. This div I want to be very thin. So first of all, let's go to the width and let's remove the 100 pixel width. Click that and it all goes to 100%. Let's go to height and let's remove that height as well. Click. Now it still shows because it has a height, some padding in here. Okay, so there is padding in there. That's why it shows. Now imagine if there wasn't any padding. So let's remove that padding like so. And then I click away. Now I can barely see that div. I can't even select it anymore. So this becomes a little bit of a problem. Now, if you suspect there's items in here that you think are hiding, what you can do is select the item and click the tree view. So this will come along and show you something. So this shows you the item in red is what's selected. The item over here is the parent. And these are items that are contained inside. Now, as I hover, you see they become selected on this side here. Okay, so you can see this div over here is the one that disappeared. So if I click on it, I can now select it. And then therefore I can add some stuff here like padding 10 pixels. That's how you can recover things that are hiding. All right, so now here I want to change the image to something else. So I'll double click on the image, or I can click this image icon over here. So let's go to people. And inside here, I'm going to select some smiley woman like that. Now, I want to change the padding of this thing. It's too thin. So let me go to padding here and let me put 2. Now, instead of pixel, I'll select M. M is much bigger. So there we go. That's much better. 2M is good. And then, since I'm copying this, I'm going to copy this text over here. Just copy the name and double click in here and paste. Then I'll do the same for this text here, copy, and then double click and paste. Okay, so there we go. This one I want to increase the font to 20 pixels. Okay, and this one I want to keep it at 14, so click to move 14 like so, or maybe 15, I'm not sure. 20 seems fine here. In this one, let's select that and let me click add as well. I want to add icons. So there's an icon thingy here. There we go. We don't need many icons here because you can always change these. So I'll click on people icon. Let me close that. I want this to auto close from now on. And then now at least the div has something, so I can remove its background by clicking out of there. Okay, so if I select this one, I can therefore go to image in the on the properties panel here where there's icon and click on that. So what icon do I want? I want Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. So let me start with Twitter. I should have selected the Twitter one, right? All right, so there it is. So that's Twitter for us. Now, if we go up here, you'll see that there are 3 classes on this icon. There's because these are bootstrap icons, so they always start with BI and BI Twitter. So you shouldn't delete these, because once you delete these, the icon will disappear. These ones that by Twitter. But there's a 3rd class called icon. That is the class you can add things to, styles. So let's say color here, and because that will be common to all the icons. So I want to, what color is this? It's kind of an orange. So I can just click on this orange here, and that will be good. So once I have that, I can now just clone this. So I'm going to go ahead and clone 1, 2 times like that. Okay, so while that is selected, I need a margin on the left and on the right, just left and right. So margin left, I'll put 5 pixels, and margin right, 5 pixels too. Maybe that's a little too little, so we'll put 10, 10 like that. All right, so let me change this icon here by going down here and selecting Instagram. So say Instagram, boom, and this one should be Facebook. Now in future I'm going to add Font Awesome as well, but for now Bootstrap icons are easier to work with, so we're going to deal with those for now. And now let's change the font size. Make sure the icon class is selected here. Let's go to font size. Let's reduce that to something more reasonable that looks similar to what we have, so maybe 20 pixels, because they're quite small, these guys. This one should be a little bit bigger, the text here. Let me go to something like 25 pixels. There we go. And then the color here should be much leaner. This one is deep, but this one isn't. So let me select that, and let's go to color and select that black. But then, wait, why isn't the black selecting? Sometimes you have to punch it a little bit. Maybe go to gray instead. Okay, so there we go, black, and then I can scroll it up until it kind of disappears. So here we are in the 8282, something like that. All right, that looks about right. Now let me give it, this has a margin of course, but let me give it, I think that's fine actually. It's got a margin of, no, it doesn't have a margin, does it? No. So let me give it some margin, maybe 10 pixels margin, the whole thing. So if I click away, this is what I have. So let me compare this to this. This is much wider, I can see. So let me select that. Let's go back to width. Now, instead of putting a fixed width, again, it's better to put max width, or max width here. Let me put 400 pixels. That looks more like it, maybe 350. Yeah, 350 looks about right. So instead of having a fixed width, let's put 100 and put percent for the width, so it goes all the way. But then let's give it a maximum limit, which is 350 pixels, like that. The reason we do this is so that when it gets to responsive design, let me show you if I don't do this. Let me just do 350 as a fixed and pixel there. So if I go to responsive view, right, if I'm going down like this, you see here, this is cut off when we get to the mobile view, right? This is really cut off here. So this doesn't work very well. That's why we need to give percentages instead of fixed values, so it's more responsive. Now you should be careful here when you move to these other views, because whatever styles, if you look at this selected thing, there are no styles here, but if I go to the desktop view, there are styles. So each of these sections gives you an opportunity to add new styles. So whatever style you add, let's say you add on the laptop view, it means this will affect all the styles on the right hand side and not on the left. So whatever I change here will be the same for the rest of up to the mobile view, but not the desktop. And if I add things here, same thing, it will be responsible for the right hand side until the very end. So if I add something here, it's not going to reflect on the desktop version. So always go back to the desktop version if that's not what you want to do before you add new styles. So what I want to do instead is, let's go back to the width. Let's remove and put 100% here, right? And then we say max width 350. So we're telling it that the width should be 100%, but it should not exceed 350. So that's good for responsive view. So let's go down to the mobile version, and you can see now there's a difference, because now at least it has this thing here going on. But what I want to do is when we get to this mobile view, I don't want the margin anymore here because I want to use as much of the space as I want. Now, instead of doing it right here on this mobile view, I'll do it a view before, somewhere here, maybe. At this point, I think it's safe to move it to a full view here. So we can add some on the landscape mobile here, because two of these can't fit anyway. So what we're going to do instead is, let's go to margin, and let's put 0 margin here. All right, so there's no margin here. And let's go to the width on this thing, and on the width I want to put 100%. So pixel percent. So you have to move around these sometimes to get what you're looking for. Wait, yeah, but remember that there's a max width, right? A max width should be, we have to put a value because we can't just leave it there. So max width could be, you can put a ridiculous number here, or you can say 100 and put it on percent. Something like this, right? So now if we move back, you see there it is, and we move forward, this is what we get. And then here, at least we take more of that real estate, a bit better like this. So let's go back to desktop view, and there it is. Cool. Now I want, when I duplicate, this is the time we can actually duplicate this and clone it. But before we do that, oh, actually we can. Let's clone this. So I'm going to say edit. Now select the big one here. So edit, clone 2 times. Now you see they're going down here instead of staying in the section box here. They're going down. That's because the display on this div is block. It's set to block. If you want them to go this way, you should set it to inline. Now I don't have to worry about editing the rest of these. I can just edit this one because they share the same classes. They're all going to change. That's because they are clones. If you don't want them to share the same classes, you duplicate instead of cloning. So select this, and let's go to display here and say instead of block, we say inline. Now instead of inline, actually it's inline block because we needed to maintain its integrity. So there it is, it's a block. But they are not centered, these guys. So we'll select the parent, which is a section, and let's go to font, say text align center, and that actually centers these guys. So let me click and drag this away so you can see better what's going on. So that's what we have. Now let's move along and see what happens when it's responsive. To make sure it's responsive, look at that. That actually works. Okay, there it is. Very cool. So let's get back to business. Let me select, now you can use any of these because they have the same class, so it's going to, the class is class 1. So you can edit this class as you wish to change it. Better edit it, I guess, before you clone it, I suppose. But let's edit it. Let's say user card instead, user-card, and let me save that. So the selected one says user card, but these other ones have, oh, so because I've edited it, you know what, I forgot. I should have actually selected all of them to edit the card here. So only this one is containing that one class. So let me edit that again. Ah, see, this is the thing I think I probably didn't do very well. Let me see. So this is class 1. Wait a second. Oh, so user card contains all these. Okay, yeah, so I guess I should have I should have selected all of them to rename them. Okay, so there we go. But something isn't right here. So what's going on? Some missing classes, I guess. Display inline block, max width. Everything is here, but why is it What is going on here? So yeah, this is confusing me. Let me go to the preview. It's weird that, yeah, here it's looking okay, as it should. So what's wrong with this? What's wrong with this picture? This is probably a bug, right? It can't be real. Okay, so what I'm going to try to do is just go to the width and try to edit stuff. Let's say, oh, on the responsive view it's good. So maybe, okay. So I guess that was the issue. It's just a bug. So in case you see something like that, just move around with the, I'm going to fix that. Don't worry about it. Move around in the responsive view. Yeah, I think this fixes things because when you're moving around in the responsive view, it mutes some of the classes and activates some. So I think I accidentally muted one class. Oh, by the way, you can mute a class. I forgot to mention that by double-clicking the class name itself. If you double-click, you see it turn gray. Then you've muted it. And as you can see, all the styles don't apply anymore. So let me double-click again and unmute it. All right, so I think that's what happened in the background. In any case, I'll select this and let me reduce the border color. I do like the border. I want to leave it there, but let me reduce the border color like so. So I'm watching one of these. Since they're all the same, I'm watching one of these while selecting that because they all have the same class anyway. So something very faint like that. All right, close that. Now let me double click here and get that different image. And what's the original? There's a male on the end, so let's put one of the guys there. All right, then I can go ahead and do Claire Smith, come back, paste, and let's get John Smith. It looks like one family, yeah? Something like that. All right, so at least we have 3 of these items. Now, if I want to add a title at the top, let me select the section and add, and I'm going to go to Elements, and let me add an H1 tag. So there is the H1, but it's at the bottom here. I want to move it to the very top. Now, you can use these arrows to move things up and down, which is the same as edit here. You say move up. So it has moved in between these elements, but I want it to go all the way up. So I can just say move to the top, and there it is. So here maybe we can say featured. These are podcasters. Something like that. Featured podcasters. So this one also, this is the H1. It's got a class of H1. So you may edit this as well and say title instead. Change the class name to title, and there it is. So cool. So you can edit class names like that. You can also add new classes to the same element. Like for example, on this I can add title color, for example, as a new class. So automatically when you select an item, the last class is selected because it has to select at least one class. So this one can deal with the color only. So there it is. I can change the color to something like that and say close. But there are other settings here that are different. Whatever class is at the end here takes the cake. So in this case, because this one has the color, if both had color, this one would be the one showing. But you can move these classes around by using these arrows like so. As you can see now, they've swapped, which means this one will win in case there's a battle for colors, as you can see now. Changing this color doesn't do anything. So let me go back here. Now if I move this away to the other side, you see this one's color now wins. So I'll select this one and remove that color. I didn't need that. Go back there. All right, guys. So if you followed along up to this point, you've learned a lot on how to do things here. Now you can go ahead and save this. Now let me just tell you that you have to be logged in order to save. So I'll click save. If you're not logged in, it will give you a warning here and ask you to log in. So the login page is on file. Now because I'm already logged in, that's why I don't see it. If you're not signed up, there will be a sign up button right here as well. It's just your email and password, that's it. So you just sign up and then you hit save. So here let's do save as, let's say podcasters. I'll save that. Maybe it's a podcasters gallery, something like that, and save. Okay, saving, boom, save complete. Thank you very much. Now let's do a preview. So I'm going to go file, preview page. Okay, and there it is. So let's try the responsive view and see how well that works. So we are on desktop view. Let's go down like that, and then finally it snaps at this point. You can see it go full screen and then all the way lower like that. So I think the lowest mobile size is 320 width. So there it is. That's mobile size. Okay, pretty cool. Yes. So now the advantage of this is that now that you've saved this, you can always start a new project. Let me refresh this. Oh, you can always click File, New Project. Sorry about that. If I add, let's say I start creating something new. Let me add some content here. And then I remember, oh, I have those podcasters that I need to add. I can add them to this project. You can just go to File, Import. And then here is your podcasters gallery project. Then you can just click on that. And just like that, all that work, it saves you all that work of doing it again. You can add this here and add from other projects as well. Just import stuff that you created. I have other stuff here. And there we go. Just like that, we've added more stuff down there. So that's the beauty of reusability. So this makes things very reusable, extremely reusable, because even when I import like this, I can just select that and put a background color, and just like that, it looks like a very different thing, right? Easy peasy. All right, guys, so I hope you have learned something in this version. We're going to be creating more items in here just so you get used to creating things in here and speed up your workflow as fast as possible. All right, until the next video, bye-bye.